俺の拳を試すか Come on!
This is gonna be a match to remember. Fight!
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Slovenly Gamer Podcast. I am your host, Milton, and on this week's show, I got an individual I've been trying to get on this show for months, man. This dude is like, there's like a couple of dudes that I equate to like the James Browns of the FGC that's always working. Sometimes you don't always see them in front of the camera, but they're always behind the camera doing some pretty dope stuff. The gentleman I have on the show today is the one and only Aaron, a.k.a. all the FGC heads, you guys are going to know him as Kapwan. Cap, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you for having me. Glad to be on.
Dude, it's a pleasure having you here, man. I mean, so much has been going on. There's so much to talk about. I mean, of course, the biggest thing we're probably going to talk about is EVO 2016. Mm-hmm. But before we get into all of that, take us back, man. Like, introduce us to, give us some origin stories. Who's Kapwan and how the hell did he fall in love with the FGC?
Okay. So I've been a fighting game player all my life, but there were no arcades where I grew up. I'm from Oakland.
Okay.
There are no arcades. There are no arcades in Oakland.
Okay.
And because of that, like, you didn't really get to play too much arcade games. So it's like playing at home, playing on Sega Saturn, playing Super Nintendo. Well, not Super Nintendo, but playing console fighting games. Yeah. Liking it, loving it, beating a computer, but not really doing the arcade experience. Little did I know that Sunnyvale Golfland existed. But Sunnyvale is, if you're from Oakland and you're a teenager or a kid and you don't have a car, Sunnyvale is like some off fairy tale land that doesn't exist.
So it's basically like another state, it sounds like. So yeah, it's like another state within the state.
It'd be like, that's where rich people live.
Yeah,
not really, but that's pretty much what it is. Like, if you're from the East Bay, the peninsula's non-existent.
Yeah, so that's like the upper middle class kind of thing. Like those are the people with a little bit more money, right? Yeah, we got the same thing in New York too. Certain areas in Jersey and Brooklyn.
Yeah, it'd be like if you're like grew up in New Jersey and you heard about some spot in the Bronx, like dude, that'd be hard to get to.
Yeah.
But been playing at home all my life. But then when I moved down to SoCal, was playing in college, just playing games with people at the dorm and whatnot. But I heard about arcades out in Walnut, and in Huntington Park and all that stuff. This is back in like 2003, when Street Fighter was in its dead zone. Yeah. So I went searching for arcades because I wanted to play new fighting games. I wanted to play the new KOF game and the new Samurai Showdown game.
Oh my God.
So I went hunting, went to Huntington Park, went to that janky arcade, played there.
I've heard about that arcade.
No, I went in there, like, one, I didn't know Huntington Park was Mexico. Like I didn't know how, like, Latino was and how much Spanish there's going to be, but that's fine. But like, there's a gang in there just playing Hog in the Machine. I didn't even play the King of Fighters game. I wanted to until like right before I left.
Oh man,
because I'm not going to step to a bunch of fools all wearing the same colors.
Yeah, right. I mean, and cuff. Everybody who knows, like, that cuff. That's like
that's the thing. But then I learned about AI, fell in love with it. Mm-hmm. But AI is far. I went to college in Long Beach. Yeah. AI is in Walnut. That's an hour and a half away for people who don't know how far that is. Yeah. That's far.
Yeah. And that's with decent traffic, too.
Yeah, that's with decent traffic. And I didn't have a car my first few years, so, like, this is like bumming rides with friends. Mm-hmm. But after figuring that out, like, I kept playing at home, drive to the arcade. Playing at home, drive to the arcade. I still sucked because I played on console, so I played on pad. Yeah. Slowly learning stick. Then the fighting game renaissance, so to speak, or new renaissance, I would say, happened with Street Fighter 4 coming out.
Yes.
So before Street Fighter 4 came out, I was super excited. Then they got it at Super Arcade at the old location. Mm-hmm. I played it, hated it. Like, game felt slow, did not feel like Super Turbo at all.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know this, and I was literally, as a matter of fact, we were having a conversation at Wednesday Night Fights, but like right before you walked up, I don't recall if we were having it as well too, but weren't we talking about that Wednesday Night Fights just recently, about how when 4 came out vanilla, it wasn't that great of a game, but people gave it a chance and it evolved into something spectacular.
Oh, that's absolutely true. Like, 4 was the game that told people that fighting games can happen again, because up until that point, the only thing that was happening was Tekken and Virtua Fighter, which have fallen off in America.
Right.
King of Fighters, which Americans don't generally play, and King of Fighters started doing the weird shit with Maximum Impact, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And Guilty Gear, which is way too niche for Americans to get into.
Yes.
So the only people who are playing those games are people like myself who played fighting games in old days, imported or got a chip in their PS2, stuff like that, or went to an arcade.
Right.
But 4 was a game that said, okay, we can actually have fighting games that Americans play again. We can have a scene. I didn't know about the competitive scene per se, but I knew the arcade would at least have more people showing up again.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I played 4. Line was super long at Super Arcade. This is before Watson was involved. Yeah. And game was slow, felt weird.
Yeah.
And my Street Fighter characters were not in there. I didn't like the game at all. So I went back and started trying out BlazBlue.
Yes.
Because BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, I played Guilty Gear, but I reached a skill gap or a skill ceiling in that game. I couldn't figure out how to play it. I figured I could start anew with BlazBlue because brand new game, everybody's starting ground zero.
Right.
So I played that competitively for a year, but I sucked. Then Super came out. Street Fighter 4 came out. That's what made me really get into the FGC. Because I don't know when it was, but I think Andy OCR, he went to some tournament on the East Coast, did really well, and they had him on Wake Up SRK. Okay. And at that, I heard about Wednesday Night Fights in Santa Ana. In Santa Ana? No. Orange? It's when Valle had it at Dave & Buster's, and he had it at...
I think it's Orange County. Yeah. It's DLC.
It's Dave & Buster's in Orange. Heard about that. Figured, okay, I could kind of make that from work. Went out there. It was awesome. But 2 weeks later, they lost that venue because of whatever. So
wait, I didn't even know about that. I didn't. So, because so I've only been living in SoCal for about 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So all of this, even though I was knowledgeable about the community, I got it through forums and things like that, and other small, because the FGC, what people see now of the FGC on the East Coast, it's now starting to grow like that, and it's only because of SoCal. So that's why I'm always giving SoCal props, because SoCal, California in general, spawned that whole thing that we call quote unquote the FGC. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And people like you or I may realize it. You know what I'm saying? Certain people who are involved kind of know the knowledge in the background. But I remember going to Chinatown Fair and we didn't have the culture how you guys have that that gaming culture over here. When we went to Chinatown Fair, it was literally just us and that was it. You know what I'm saying? It was just and we had to take the train and stuff like that. So that's crazy. I didn't even know that they started in Dave & Buster's, and do you know what happened? You know how they ended up losing that?
It actually started at Valle's homie's garage.
Okay.
And they were basically training when 4 first came out, and they were hey, there's a new Street Fighter. Let's all play together. Right. And eventually, I think it was Andy Papa. I think he's hey, can I record this? Can I film it? It seems like these really good matches. I want to record it. So then he started recording it. Then more people started showing up, started hearing about it on SRK. Then they moved it out of the garage. They moved it to Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's was so-so. It was nice, but they had projectors and all that junk and more space.
Yeah.
But their power went out nonstop. And their internet was ass.
Oh, okay. So that makes
the venue just couldn't support Wednesday Night Fights as it grew. So then for a couple months, we just had it at this LAN center in Anaheim. Ooh, and it was only a handful of us. It was maybe 10, 15, 20 people that showed up.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of heads now, or people used to know, Shigo BMX.
Okay,
what's his name? ETR. Hugo 101. A bunch of Sherry.
Who did his fucking thing at Evo, by the way.
It's kind of funny how people outside of SoCal don't really know about Hugo 101, but he's been a legit monster here for forever.
Dude, that guy, not just to get, we got to get sidetracked a little bit here. At Evo, I remember, when I saw him, I was Ken, what the fuck? I was what the hell are you doing here, dude? I was holy shit. He was hey, man, what's up? Because, mind you, I haven't seen this dude since before UGC closed down. So that's how long exactly I haven't, seen him. So when I saw him, I was we were, literally, the fuck are you doing here? And he was oh, yeah, well, you know how he is. You know how he talks or whatever. Really sweet guy. And, dude, Ninth place, bro.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. What I don't like was that they kind of bodied him on stream twice because they didn't know who he was. And people got kind of salty about it. And like, I was kind of salty. But then like later on, someone told me, they were like, oh yeah, like he's not using his name. He's not using Hugo 101.
No.
I'm like, oh, so they're like, when he's going up there, I was like, everybody's like, who the fuck is Kenneth Pope?
Yeah.
We're not going to put Kenneth Pope on the stream. Like, we don't know you.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh, but it was crazy because later on, Sal, Rathmatics, like him and Valiant, those guys were telling me, they were like, other people on the ground kind of knew who he was, but the people kind of doing the stream stuff didn't. So it was like this weird thing where there wasn't like communication across the lines to be like, oh, that's the dude you want to make sure you put on stream. Because like, so it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, the stream situation for top 64 for Street Fighter 5 was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into
that
later. But
yeah, we're definitely getting into that.
Yeah, it was a tough situation where like there are matches that we wish were on stream, but they were recorded.
Okay.
Every single match from Top 64 was either on stream or recorded at a local station.
Okay.
But people didn't realize that they were being recorded.
I didn't know that as well. I didn't know that you guys were doing recording at local stations. That's really good.
Yeah, so those matches are recorded there, documented, all that stuff.
So at some point we'll probably get like a little video library of like certain matches. But
probably not.
Really?
There's so much footage from all of these events that no one watches. Because, like, you think about all of the video footage, like, you have hours and hours of footage.
Yeah.
Put up on YouTube, you put it up, you cut it up, you edit it, you get 2,000 views.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, a lot of times they don't bother. Like, usually it's just top 8 that they'll cut up and throw up there.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
The only time they'll do something different is if you have a situation like John Choi beating Daigo type situation.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, back to Wednesday Night Fights Evolution. So, it was at this land sitting there in Anaheim. It's like really janky place, but it's kind of cool because it's a smaller group of people. So it's like 15, 20 people showing up each week. So I actually learned a lot in that time frame because I was still second at 4 at Super. But after a while, Valle partnered with John Nelson of Revelation fame. We didn't know his reputation at the time, but he partnered with John Nelson, and they found a new venue for Wednesday Night Fights at the Hollywood Park Casino. That casino was rough. Sketch. Like I remember going there the first time, like walking in and like feeling like, oh man, this place is depressing. It's a bunch of old people like gambling away their money. Like the gambling tables look run down. Like there's just cigarette smoke ambient everywhere. Like it's a rough spot. Like
damn.
Yeah, but they had it at the casino. Actually, it's kind of funny. This is back. You know Shizza, right?
Yeah.
This is back when he just came off his win at Evo.
Okay.
Snake Eyes had just came back from Evo after winning ST.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people just came in there training. We're there for a few months, and we're getting by, but it wasn't really a great venue.
I can imagine, dude. Like stagnant cigarette smoke. I mean, we were just at Evo, and like people were smoking, and we couldn't even smell it. Like it was just kind of like, damn, that's.
Yeah. I mean, we were in a ballroom in the place, but it's like run down, like you, like I can't think of a good way to describe it, but just like it didn't look like the spot we were having Wednesday Night Fights in didn't look like it was supposed to be open. It looked like
that makes sense. Okay,
it looked like we just broke into like an empty ballroom and just set up some monitors. Yeah, it was a janky place. But after that, they had SCR, the first. I think it was the first SCR. At the Proud Bird, which is a venue that was near the airport, like some restaurant event venue. They had SCR there, and they found a partnership after that event to have Wednesday Night Fights there. So Wednesday Night Fights really blew up there. That's when Marvel 3 first came out.
Okay.
When AE, all that stuff
came out. That's when it kind of hit the ground running, and it started to kind of develop into the Wednesday Night Fights as we know it.
Yeah, that's where it became the monster that it is. Because all this time when Wednesday Night Fights was happening, Justin Wong, people like that, they didn't come to that shit.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
like the only person who really showed up was Mike Ross every now and again in Gutex. But like the names of SoCal, like they weren't really there at that time.
Right.
It's more like the up and comers, like the guys from Team Hori, like Tatsu. Damn it, I forgot his name. Fucking Guile. I cannot remember his name. Whatever. You know who I'm talking about. This guy player with the friggin' mutton chops like Wolverine.
Okay,
and,
like I'm sure everyone's gonna remember.
Yeah, and the OCR. Like they were the new up and comers. Hugo Ono's up there too. Mark Teddy was still like just kind of a scrubby guy. The High Desert people weren't even there yet. Like Filipino Man, Chris Hall and them, they didn't exist yet.
Damn.
Well, I shouldn't say they exist, but
no, I know what you mean. But like they didn't even like. I mean, everybody understands within the context of the community, they weren't, because those people are kind of like those are up and coming / like household names on the scene now. So for you to say that at one time in the community, like people don't even understand how new a lot of people are on the scene, that you can even say like these people didn't exist. Like
here's a good way to put it. Snake Eyes was just learning Street Fighter 4 at that time.
Oh shit.
I could still beat him at Street Fighter 4 at that time.
Wow.
So this like really, really early days for him. Like him and I Got You Twice, like IGT.
Yeah.
They were playing together. Like IGT was training him up in Street Fighter 4.
What?
Yeah.
That's like, no, this is dope because I feel like, and it lends a certain like human aspect, because I feel like when people look at, you understand this more than anybody, you understand when people look at gamers and they see these people playing at such a high level, they think that they were just born this way. They don't understand the training and how like everybody started at a certain level where you're like, you're not necessarily happy with how you're playing, but you're striving and you're getting bopped mercilessly on the scene, to the point where you become this player now that everybody looks upon and you're just like godlike, but people don't see that rise. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was literally just talking to Commander Jesse about this, but like his shooting star right now. And I'm like, and you know, him and I were talking and he was like, dude, like, he's like, I've been grinding like for 6 years. He's like, I've been grinding nonstop for 6 years. And I was just like, it's so funny. And I was like, I love that you say that, because people need to hear that, because with Street Fighter 5, which we're going to get into as well, I feel like new people that's coming on the scene, a lot of the complaining and the bitching that they're doing is because they want instant gratification and they don't understand how the scene works. Like, no, like you gotta fucking work 24/7, 365. You're thinking about tech, you're thinking about like frames, you're thinking about everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important for you to, and it's very cool to have you on to kind of like lend that aspect to people who we look at it was like, yeah, that's fucking Snake, dude. But you could be like, no, I knew him when he was garbage.
No, I mean, like many of the big names down here, like at one time or another, like they were not great at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like some people were like just good from the outset, but most of them were like just kind of okay at best.
Right.
Like I remember when me and Mark Teddy were the only guy players, and like we were almost on par.
Yeah.
Like Mark Teddy's always still been better, but like it wasn't that big. There was not a large gap between our skill gaps. But then, like, after he was still at UCLA, but, like, he just grew and grew and grew to the player we know nowadays. A lot of guys down here, it's just all been that same situation where, like, they come in, they find this venue, which was Super Arcade, and just, well, not Super Arcade at that time, but Wednesday Night Fights was
Wednesday Night Fights in general,
Wednesday Night Fights and the surrounding arcades and that crowd that came to that event just kind of just made the scene flourish. Yeah. Because there was still Family Fun Arcade that still existed. Super Arcade still existed. AI still existed. And people would, you know, go to Wednesday Night Fights compete. Yeah. Then on Sundays they'd compete, or Saturdays, whatever they compete at the local thing.
So you're like legit, like you're like a legit you're like a, I don't even know how to put this. You're like a little encyclopedia to FGC history. Like it's crazy, and I think that's an apropos kind of thing, because like it's crazy what you're saying now, and like and I knew that, and like that's why I was just like, you know, I was like so excited to get you on the show, because I felt like it's very important to have people like you on to talk about those days of the nothingness of the scene, because I think what's going to happen now, there's going to be a generational shift of where people like us, like even for me on the East Coast and before, who used to go to arcades, like we have a very different concept of the scene. We have a very hard structural concept of like, when you get bopped, like you, number one, you go and you know you're going to get bopped. Yeah. And you know, depending on who the person is, they're probably going to pop off on you. And you know, and you understand that's all a part of the culture. And I feel like where we're going now is that the kids who are kind of coming up right now, they're not going to have the benefit of that rough upbringing. No. So when you beat them and you're like, yo, why'd you do that? And they can't give you an answer. And you're like, that's some stupid shit. Like, I'm not even playing you anymore because like you can't even tell me like why you're doing the shit that you're doing. They just look at you like, oh, that dude Cap is an asshole, yo. It was like, and other people in the FGC is like, no, he's not. That's just like some legit FGC shit. Like,
I mean, it's literally like get good. That's like,
yeah, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, why are you jumping? It's like, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, and I see a lot of that with Valle right now with his tweets, and I think he's just hitting that ceiling of like, you people are just asking me like some dumb shit, and I'm gonna just have to call you on it. And I think one of the best ones when he was talking about like anti-ears, and he was just like, "Why are you jumping?" He was like, instead of complaining about anti-ears, he was just like, "Why the fuck are you jumping so much in the first place?" And I'm like, that is the very typical FGC mindset, and there's a difference between FGC and esports, people. So this is why we're saying FGC, that when you can't explain something, like when I play Vicious here. And we were playing, and he was like dead ass looking at me like he was like look. He gave me that look like he's like, why'd you do that? Yeah. And I was like, and I explained it, but he's like okay. He was just like I don't necessarily agree with that decision. Yeah. But I like that you had a plan. And you know what I'm saying? He's like I don't agree with it, but I like that you had a plan. You just didn't do shit just for the fucking sake of doing it. And I feel like it's important to talk about that, to talk about how these guys and how like even when you played. Like, you know what I'm saying? Did you deal with a lot of that same kind of thing when you were messing up? People were like, dude, what the fuck was that? And you kind of have to like...
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, I didn't have a concept of like normals being the value of different normals. Yeah. Like, I grew like growing up is like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to build up meter to do my super combo. Exactly. That's flashy shit. Like, I think a lot of people, when they play fighting games, they just want to do the coolest looking move immediately. Right. That's why people play Ken, because he has a fire Shoryuken. Yeah. That's why people play Mortal Kombat, because like, oh, I knocked that guy's head off. Like, it's that type of thing that people look for. But when you start getting competitive and you start getting good, then you start realizing like, okay, I need a strategy. I need to learn how to punish this. This thing is beating me. It's not invincible. Right. Why does it feel like it's invincible? Like it's that growth curve that people have to get through. It's part of the reason why fighting games are like not as popular, because people don't want to deal with frustration.
Yeah, and I feel like not only that, but I feel like there's some people on the scene right now who make YouTube videos and they're all over the web. I watch some of these videos and they're talking about, and sometimes like it confuses me, because what they'll say is things like a character is stupid, or this person's stupid, or a person is doing the same move over and over, and it lets me know how much of the FGC, like how much they're not a part of the FGC. And what I mean by that is like, I'm not like the FGC may, I'm not telling, who and who's not a part. But what I mean by that is it's like, there's certain things that FGC people fundamentally understand. And it's one of those things of like, if you're getting beat by the same moves over and over, you're fucking up. Yeah. That's it. You know what I'm saying? There's no excuse to say, well, that person just kept throwing a fireball, or, they just kept mashing. And now, like, we're just like, well, if you know a person is mashing, well, you have to know how to fucking frame trap them. Like, you know how to shimmy. You got a footsie. Like, that's it. And there you go. Like, why are you complaining? Why do you think, do you think that the more people kind of like, the more we blow up, right? Do you think that people are going to try to attach to that core ideas of the FGC of like, no, you actually got to work hard. You actually got to think, you actually got to strategize? Or do you think they're still going to continue on that mindset of like, oh, I want it now. I want results now. I want to try to do all the normals I can to build butter, and then so I can do my critical art.
It's kind of hard to say. And honestly, this applies to pretty much all competitive gaming, esports included. It's the point where, are you willing to not have fun to get better at this game? Because that's all it really comes down to. Grinding is hard. Yeah. And grinding is not fun. Like, I'm sure you heard the story about Daigo learning how to punish Guile's whiff forward. Yes. Something like that is something that I don't think many people would have the dedication to do nowadays. To literally sit down, have your best friend hit low forward 1 billion times until you learn the timing to beat it. Like, that takes dedication. Yeah. And you only get that type of dedication if you have something that you desire at the end point. Right. And unless you desire to get good at this game and compete, it may not happen. Like, if you're just playing to have fun, then you are just going to complain and not try and figure out what's going to happen, like how to beat something. So I think what's going to happen is we're just going to have a divergence of the crowd who plays this game. There's going to be the people who play for fun and the people who play competitive. That's how it is with Call of Duty. That's how it is with a lot of the other esports games. And we're seeing that now happen with Smash.
Yes.
Smash has become a game where, Smash Melee in particular, has become a game to the point where there's the audience who plays the game, has a little bit of knowledge, but not enough to play competitively very well. And the level where people are playing at a high level, they know everything. They're willing to grind to learn how to beat XYZ. And they feel like they're really, really good at this game and that they're going somewhere.
Right.
For fighting games, right now, I don't think a lot of people are going to stick around and learn how to play the game proper. But there are going to continue to be people who go for that next level. There is going to be that next echelon. Like, you look at who's winning tournaments right now. In Street Fighter V, there's a lot of new and upcoming people that people don't remember. Like, look at Europe especially.
Yeah,
with Phenom and Big Bird and those guys. Like, these are 18, 17-year-old kids winning fighting games.
Yeah.
Look at Knuckle Dude. This kid was playing in like 14, 15.
Yeah, and he's a pad player too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's it's interesting because, like, just for me personally, as like a person who's like now getting back into it and like having to like sit here and grind out, and I play Mika and like having to like figure shit out.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, but you have to make the time if you really want it. Cause like for me, every day I practice at least an hour every single day. I make the time every single day. Yeah. And that's why I just tweeted out like a couple days ago, like that picture of Vicious. And I was like, whenever I don't feel like practicing, I was like, this is the face I see. So I go ahead and practice because like, I feel there is, and I agree with you. I feel like there is going to be this sharp divergence, even though we're growing, and I feel like we're going to split. And I feel like it's going to be in esports people, and then there's going to be FGC people, and the FGC people, we're going to be in part of the esports as well too, and TV and do all that kind of, frilly shit, the frilly TV shit. But I feel like those core people are going to be the ones that's going to be like, I want to play. I'm going to go to Wednesday night fights. I'm going to play. I'm going to learn. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to look at frame data. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to figure shit out. And I think it's to the betterment, and I think it might still help us grow, even though there's going to be that sharp divergence up ahead. I think overall the community is going to grow, because I think a lot of young people who are getting a chance, because I'm seeing at Wednesday night fights, I see a ton of kids get dropped off by their parents at Wednesday night fights, and I'm looking at these people like those are the next superstars. Because if you're willing to be like every Wednesday, you're like, yo, I need to go to this thing and I want to be here, win or lose, that lets me know there's something special about you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, no, I agree. And I think the growth of the young people is still going to happen no matter what.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is getting people to go from online to offline. That's the biggest hurdle. Because
talk about that and talk about the difference, because we say it, but I always like on this show, I always like to, because I understand that, there's a lot of people who pretend to be a part of the FGC and who pretend like they understand fighting games, but I realize like a lot of terms that we use, they really don't understand what we mean. Yeah. So unpack that a little bit. Unpack the difference between online play and local play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first immediate thing is lag and strategies that don't work.
Yes.
Offline, like simple thing, throwing, like. Because of lag, the window to tech a throw online is damn near impossible.
Yeah.
Because by the time you register, like the animation is already complete. Offline, it's like, no, I'm gonna check your command grab every single time.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is just the nature of the environment you're playing in. When you're playing online, you're at home generally. You're probably by yourself. You're in your environment. You're comfortable. You're relaxed. You can do whatever. Like you're shooting the shit. You're texting people in between matches while you're waiting for stuff. Like your attention is not 100% on this game. Your focus is divided on between the game and everything else around you in your house. Whereas if you're offline, all you have to do is either play this game or talk to other people about this game you're about to play that are around you. And it focuses your attention. You get to watch other people play. Sometimes they're terrible. You see like, oh man, that guy's really dumb. I should like, you see like how bad play is, but you also see people who are like better than you. Because the one thing that's always going to happen when you go to your local scene, there's always going to be someone better than you.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
No matter what, there's always someone better than you offline.
And in my stage right now, everybody's better than me, but I fucking love it. I love it, dude. I love it.
Because like the one thing that you can never get online is advice.
Yes.
You're never going to get a message from someone on PlayStation saying like, "Hey, good games. Why did you do X? Why did you do friggin' V trigger cancel grab? Why didn't you do V trigger then back off then do like?" No one's ever going to say that online. It's always going to be like you.
It's true. Like I was playing a Laura at Wednesday Night Fights, and I can't remember the dude's name. But he's like, was like trying to like figure out the pressure, and for some reason I don't know why I wasn't using V reversal, and he was like, "Dude, V reversal." Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like. Because like I knew the fundamentals, like okay, Laura momentum. I was like, I gotta try to figure out how we like break up on momentum. I was like, I got a lot of tools as Mika. I'm just trying to figure them out on this particular matchup. That's another thing people don't know. Shit that you try on other matchups don't necessarily work with other characters. Yeah. So I'm trying to like figure out this matchup. And he turned to me and he's like, "Dude, V reversal." And that was something that was so important to kind of like attach onto what you're saying. Is this like that's important? That's the importance of playing locally, because now you can turn to me to be like, "Hey, don't do that. Like every time you jump, I'm gonna fucking I'm gonna tech you, or like I'm gonna I'm gonna what's her elbow, Laura?
Dash elbow. I don't know the name.
Yeah. But like that flying elbow, that's a fucking air counter. Like yes, it's gonna be out of here. And I feel like things like that you get from playing with somebody that's right next to you. And like it was like the same thing with him. Like, when you were like we're kind of like talking back and forth, and I was just like, "Oh, these are the tricks with Mika." And I was just like I was telling him, for example, I was like, "Dude, crouching fierce, don't ever fucking hit a button." Yeah. And he was like, "Why?" And I was just like, "Because I'm gonna wake up with Lady Mika and I'm gonna get crouch counter on you, and that's your ass." And and like I was like, "That's it." I was just like, I was like, and he was like, "Oh, no one really falls for that." I'm like, "No, actually, a lot of people do fall for that." Yeah. I'm like, a lot of people do, you know?
Yeah, because any character, like at a certain point, like their moves that are bad that are good because no one ever uses them.
Exactly.
Like I know when I played Guy in Street Fighter 4, no one ever does like the slam dunk.
Oh, really?
No one ever does it. I don't know why, but for some reason, Guy players just stopped doing it.
Like I felt like I saw Mark Teddy use that shit like that.
He rarely uses it, though.
Okay, but that was like at a Super Arcade though, so it was like probably one day that he was kind of acting kind of crazy and yeah.
No, but I spammed the shit out of that, like that, and no one ever used his Ultra 2, like the grab super.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no one ever used that. But I've beaten opponents I should not have beaten doing that. I went around against Daigo doing that.
What?
Yeah.
How was that round? Like, how was that match? Like,
this is back in AE Arcade Edition. Yeah, the regular Arcade Edition. So he was playing Yun back then.
Yeah.
So he did a dive kick. Like he knocked me down. Was going to do a dive kick or a safe jump setup. I do. So I could tell he's going to do a safe jump instead of safe jump down into crouch jab.
Yeah.
I did wake up super. Grabbed him, killed him.
You fucking dirtbag.
Oh, no, super didn't kill him. Then I did overhead run in the corner against him because that's stupid. Because no one expects that.
Oh my gosh. You know what I do? And it's funny, and like I love this, and this is what we're talking. Just this conversation that we're having right now is very typical of local play and all the information that you get, because it's like the same thing with me. Like when I'm playing and, Paul, Dr. Stance watches, he's like, "Oh, do this, do that, don't do that." And he's like, and I was just like, "Dude, I'm really scared of Geef." And I'm like kind of uncomfortable playing with Geef, you know what I'm saying? And he's always like, nah, because he plays Geef. He's like, "Yeah, no, you could do this." And he was just like, "These are the things you want to stay away from because, damage output." Yeah. So you kind of want to, and like that's my tactic. Because like I see a lot of people like Rashid players tend to like do a very hard rush down game on Geef, and I think they can get away with it because of his maneuverability. And I feel like I don't necessarily always have those same tools at my disposal with Mika.
I don't know, man. B skill against Rashid is really good. The armor, like you can punch the crap out of Rashid's moves with that, because he's pretty open to a lot of stuff. Like
I heard Justin say he's like -2 on everything. Like I don't know if he was like joking. I have to look at the data. Do you know at all? Because he was like joking. He was like Mr. -2. He's just like, you can be, because his whole thing was like you can basically punish damn near anything he does. So I guess that was the confluence of his idea of like this guy's -2 on everything, because you can fucking basically punish everything that he does.
As long as you have the right character and the right tool set. Right. Like anytime Rashid does a dash kick against Laura, that's death. like he's dead.
So you basically beat the shit out of Rashids all the time with that.
Most Rashids except for Valle and Richard Wynn.
I was gonna say, well, Valle obviously
he doesn't play Rashid like Rashid though, so that's yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Like, and it's Valle, so you kind of like have to be like, whatever. Yeah. But now, I mean, all these years happen. You're around. You're playing with all these big names. You're going to all these local things. You know, then you start doing a little bit of TO work with Watson at Super Arcade, right?
Yeah. So this actually happened prior to Super Arcade when we were still at the old place. Mm-hmm. It reached the point where Valle can't be the one calling out names for everybody. Right. We started doing Marvel, we started doing Street Fighter, we started doing anime games and Tekken and all that stuff. Yeah. So he had individual people doing stuff. I started helping when Mortal Kombat 9 came out.
Okay.
MK9 came out and Zappelli was running that tournament. Then 1 week he didn't show up. I decided, I can do it. I know how to use TO. Yeah. So I helped him stepped in for that. Then started doing that on a frequent basis. Then after that game fell off, we were still doing Street Fighter. I started helping with Street Fighter. Then once we, after Proud Bird ended and they moved to Super Arcade, I was helping Valle on Infinite Fights every now and again. But then when KOF came out, like I just became the guy because they had no one to run it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think the answer was able to stay the full timer. Like he's too busy playing something. But I just started helping with that. Then it just grew into I'm gonna help with every damn game because we're running behind and we're late and I want to get out of here.
Yeah, and that was usually the thing at Super too because it was just like let's go, let's fucking go, let's go. I don't want to be here till 2:30 in the morning. Let's go, guys. Like and you live pretty far, right? Like
before I was living in Long Beach.
Okay.
Then I moved to Culver City, and now I live in Hollywood. But like the entire time Super Arcade was out, I mostly lived in Long Beach.
Yeah, like oh my gosh, dude, and that's like. That's a ride. So I mean, there's so much going on with you. You're basically evolving and growing along with the community itself.
Yeah.
So you're doing this and you're going to school this entire time.
Nope.
Oh, you're not?
No. So I graduated right the year Street Fighter 4 came out.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'm working. So I'm starting my career, all that stuff.
Right.
But like late into near the end of Street Fighter 4's era, like I reached a point in my career where like I don't have time like I used to help out and stuff.
Right.
Like crazy shit happened at my company. Like like last year was terrible, but like routinely because of my field, people quit a lot because it's really really hard. So just Q4 comes around. Shit, I can't go anywhere. I'm working 9 to 9. I'm working 9 to 9 every day. I'm working at like 3 in the morning. There have been times in Wednesday night fights where I'm working on my computer doing work. Calling matches, going back to work. Calling matches, going back to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
So get into that. Like, who do you work for? What do you do? And how does that relate to the community? Because there's a tie-in, and people may not necessarily know that there's a tie-in.
So I work at IGN. I think anybody listening knows what IGN is. Largest gaming news site in the world. I work in ad operations. No one knows what the hell that is. But basically, advertising, sales side of business, not editorial. For God's sakes, people always ask that, like, "Oh, don't you get free games, all that shit?" No, you don't. But I work on the advertising and sales side. So anytime you're thinking of like a game needs to be advertised, I'm around that. Like at E3, I'm busy working because someone's going to sponsor our live stream or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah. Wow, okay.
So like Q4 is coming up.
Yeah,
they're going to need to advertise Titanfall and Battlefield, all that stuff. So like even this weekend, like. I was late coming to this podcast because I had to go back home, get on my computer, pull a report, and send it over so they could know how we're doing for PAX.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of relation to the fighting game community, it's just that I happen to be in the game industry. And because I know fighting game stuff, I'll nudge people on the editorial side a little bit for coverage of certain things.
Oh, that's cool, man. So, like, how do you balance that? Because, like, you're talking about these long work hours, and then earlier we were talking about how, it takes a certain amount of dedication in terms of time to the community to learn, to get better, and to grow. So, how do you balance those two things?
One, I was young. I was in my 20s. So that tremendously helps because you have more energy.
Yes, that's true.
But also, I'm a workaholic. You'll see that of like the organizers that you see, like Spooky and Slash and Chris Segley and all of them.
Yeah.
All of us are fucking workaholics.
Yeah.
So things get done because everybody's workaholic. So for me, is basically work. I want a hobby. I want to have friends to hang out with, on people who are share my interests and socialize with.
Right.
Doing the TO thing was the best way for me to reach more people, meet more people, learn more strategies, learn more about the game.
True.
So that's why I started doing that. The balance thing that made it hard is the fact that I saw that there were people who could no longer do it in the community. Like, I started volunteering because there was no one to volunteer.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like either we have this tournament take 2 hours because you have VIA playing and
trying to
like going back and forth.
Yeah.
Or we make this tournament last an hour because I'm barely playing. I suck. I'm going to go 0-2 anyway. Yeah. May as well help this thing work faster.
Okay. So, I mean, so now we get to that point. Then now we bubble up to the big stanza. I go to Evo 2016. I'm there. I'm chilling. I'm gonna kind of like do a very Tarantino-esque thing. I'm gonna bounce, like go forward, then I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Okay.
I'm down. I see this dude running around, telling people where to go, grabbing players and telling them what to do, and I'm like, wait, is that fucking Kapwan? And I'm like, and I think I was talking to Matt Matrix, and I was just like, how many jobs does this man have? Jesus Christ. So, dude, okay, so what were you doing? Were you a producer? Like, what were you doing for Evo 2016? Because you looked hella busy, dude.
So, like, just coming up and being a TO and all that stuff, like, eventually when VIA started doing SCR grew more and more. I'd help out. I'd be a part of their staff, help for the events. Became bracket overlord for the SCRs for the past few years.
Yeah.
In doing that, a couple years ago at Evo, they were looking for stream runners to pull matches. I've already been volunteer judge at Evo multiple years, but they were looking for people to help with the stream for Evo 2014 and 2013, one of the years. And Gibby, who's the head KOF guy, just recommended me to Chris Seglia, who's the guy who manages production for Evo and Tenno and Wizard World, all the stuff you guys see now.
Right.
So he recommended him. I did my first Evo with that, just being a stream runner.
Right.
And just done that for multiple events again and again.
Yeah.
This year, with the ESPN thing and the new arena and all that stuff, like, they just needed someone who, one, knew the players, two, can run around all day without making it an issue, and has enough background in production to understand how, like, a live event is done on stage.
Right.
So they had myself and Dom. I believe you know him. He's the MVC2 guy down here. He's a guy who's always wearing sunglasses and a ball cap.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a Marine guy.
Okay, yeah.
Me and him were basically like the runners for the main production on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it just so happened happened to be the one on the floor. Dom happened to be the one up top.
Right.
So, yeah, we were handling all that. He was handling the backstage stuff.
Okay.
Because they had a player room, a green room for players.
Of course.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, man? Like, coming from like, sketchy buildings and bathrooms that you look like if you touch, it looks like if you touch the doorknob, you're probably going to get hepatitis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it like coming from like that section of the scene to the point where you're running the show and it's on ESPN?
It is a bit surreal. I probably should have mentioned, like, I volunteered for IPL back when they were about to get Street Fighter 4.
Okay.
So I've touched that level of production in esports before.
Right.
But still not. It's not ESPN.
Right.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
But it's still surreal seeing how far we had come.
Yeah.
And also knowing, like, how much shit can be fucked up. Like, there were so many last minute scrambles in there. There are so many things that went wrong. So many mistakes that, like, I made major mistakes.
Give us some of that, man. Give us some of the background, because that's dope. That's kind of crazy. Because you know what's so funny? We in the community, we all know everybody locally, because we all come out to locals. We know everyone. We always joke background about how much people don't see shit that's fucked up on stream. Like, they don't understand how shit goes crazy and how many things go wrong because everything looks great on stream, but behind that, everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, there's something that's lost. So talk about that. Talk about the kind of madness that was kind of like going on behind the scenes that people don't know, that they may not appreciate.
Okay, so up front, every single successful stream production, every single successful tournament is a damn miracle. Like, if you think about how much goes into making this happen.
Yeah.
The other thing that people may not have known is that the ESPN broadcast, that was not done by ESPN people. That was done by our regular production team.
What?
Yeah. All we did was give our feed to ESPN. That was all handled by regular FGC people. That was a part of Chris Seglia's 10 staff.
Wow.
The only person that was different was the boom mic operator and like one other guy on the floor. But
so the entire production.
Yeah.
That all those hundreds of thousands of people were looking at, that was all just the community. That was all.
Yeah, the layouts, all that stuff. Pretty much everything was done by the regular Evo production staff.
Wow.
Save for like a handful of positions that we literally can't do.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, let's see what some things that went bad. We didn't know about the crowd mic situation. We didn't have a crowd mic prepped. We made that happen mid-show. Our comms went down 1 billion times.
Oh, man.
And led to a lot of screw-ups there. Some translation issues with like some of the foreign players.
Yeah.
But then just like unexpected things kept happening.
Yeah.
Also the fact that the brackets or the top 8 brackets on Shoryuken were not accurate to what the actual brackets were.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, like, that point during Evo where it's supposed to be Ita that came out, but Goichi came out?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That happened because the bracket was wrong on Shoryuken.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, someone else had the actual proper bracket. I looked at it, but I didn't take a picture of it. So I got mixed up as to who was supposed to be going out when and who's fighting who.
Right.
So that's why that whole screw up happened.
Yeah. Oh, shit, dude. So, that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
and you know what's so funny? Because, like, everything was, like, so, in appearance-wise, so flawless, like, you wouldn't even think about, like, that dude wasn't even supposed to be on the stage.
Oh, yeah. So people jumped straight to like, they must have, why do you think all Asian people like it? Nope. No, you just had the wrong matches in the wrong order. So
right.
Other stuff, the announcement for Evo Japan, a couple things went wrong. Our comms went down right when Smash ended. So we couldn't figure out whether or not we should break down the stage and have them come up or have them come up then break down the stage. Because we also had an issue because the ESPN broadcast was right in front of the stage, so we couldn't be breaking down while they're talking.
Exactly.
So this is all happening while comms are down. So we just got on cell phones with shitty signal.
Yeah.
Figuring this all out. And because of that, we had a delay between Harada going up there. But they got up there. But we didn't even know that they're announcing Evo Japan. We just knew that Ono and Harada and Markman had an announcement.
Wow.
So we're learning this stuff on the fly. Like, we didn't have any graphics prepped. You had the other thing with Access Games where they had to go to gear trailers. And
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
We did not have the third trailer. We didn't know about a third trailer.
Yeah, I remember that because I remember he was supposed to, like, when he was on stage and it's supposed to go on, and I remember him kind of like saying, like, oh, like something happened. And
oh, no.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. And we can't communicate that to him because the camera guy's on stage. I can't be on stage while they're on stage.
Right.
And I don't speak Japanese, so just the entire times when the comms like, tell them we don't have a trailer. We don't have a trailer. Like, we're freaking out. Like, we don't have this. Like, how do we make?
And this is like, and because this is not the FGC, you just can't run up and like whisper in his ears real quick and run back off. This is like a broadcast. So
this is a broadcast.
Yeah,
you have a camera in the guy's face. You just can't have someone come stage left.
Yeah,
because I'm not supposed to be on camera. I'm supposed to be in the shadow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you see me being on camera, that means something bad happened probably. Or like some kind of miscommunication. Like, stuff like that. I think those are only major things. The only other stuff is just regular tournament. Well, there's the one big thing that you know about, which is the random dude who ran up on stage.
Yes. Can we get into that a little bit, please? Because that shit was hilarious.
Yeah. So, first issue. Security. So for the Evo stage, they had 2 stairwells to get up on stage. The stage is super tall.
Yeah.
They had security guards sitting there to make sure people came on stage. The only people who were allowed to be up that stage had to be escorted by myself or one of the cannons or Joey or someone. Like, someone from staff had to escort each individual player up there.
Right.
The people who were sitting at the stage were not the type of people who are going to be able to stop anyone. Like it's 80-year-old man just chilling, watching the game.
I know, I noticed. I noticed. So he basically just let the dude just walk up on stage.
Yeah, he just looked like, oh, okay. Now, Yeah. So dude just ran up on stage. No one stopped him. I was not in the area. I was by the other staircase. We were walking the other players up on stage.
Right.
So no one was by that staircase who was staff. So it was just the security guy there. And this guy runs up on stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After this happens, all while this is happening, the comms went down again.
What? So you can't even communicate to each other that this fucking maniac is on stage?
Yeah, so they see the guy running up on stage.
Holy shit.
And I have, I think, was it Joey? Either Joey or someone from, like, one of the, like, the main evil founders was telling me, like, tell them to cut away from this. Tell them to cut away from this. And in the production room, they're like, oh, shit, what do we do? What, like, how do we figure this out? And the worst thing happens is, like, after they figure out, okay, we're going to kick this guy off stage, instead of walking the guy off the stage on the staircase that's behind him, they walk him in front of the players about to be presented their trophies.
Yes.
So you have that nice cap of Justin just chilling, and here comes some guy with his hands up. Like, yeah.
Like, you know what's so funny? And it's like, we laugh and, like, you know, we joke because it's the FGC and, like, you know, we're kind of, like, used to people, you know, but what I don't like is that I always feel like because of how people view us as it relates to the whole, I mean, and this is evident with the whole situation that Super Arcade was dealing with in Azusa. People still think that we're, like, you know, we're, like, all, like, gangs from, like, the Warriors or some weird shit. It's, like, very weird. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. And I think on that, like, I personally felt when I was watching that whole presentation, and let me stop for a second. Just what I'm talking about right now, folks, is Super Arcade out in Walnut. They moved and they tried to get a new location out in Azusa. Mike Watson had a couple of issues with it. He had like maybe 2 or 3 city hearings. Cap presented as well at the hearings, and when he went up and he presented his information, I think it made those people extra salty at the community in general because you were laying down statistics and facts, and I can see their face cringing and I was just like, that is thuggery. My man Cap went up there with the professional hat on and was just like, statistically, here I have for you numbers that show we technically tend to be more gainfully employed, a little bit more generally smarter, and like just giving all these statistics. And like I could just feel they were like, fuck you.
Like, oh yeah, you could tell they did not want to hear this.
Like, you know, and it was just so funny to me because I was just like, and I felt like, and how that connects is like when people, if those people see that shit and they watch ESPN, they're going to forget all those people that came into those meetings and they're going to be like, see, that's the kind of people, you know, people with, you know, without shirts and face tattoos who run up on stages like maniacs, but they're going to forget that they had an entire hall filled with, you know, all kinds of people, all kinds of educated people who are studying to be scientists, doctors, lawyers, you know, you know, who, you know, you're doing corporate advertising, you know what I'm saying? And you're just like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I do for a living. I'm very good at my job, and I'm going to give you some numbers that's going to explain to you exactly why you're wrong on your presumptions about it. And I love that, but that's what I always think back to. Always, whenever I see things like that, I'm always just like, man, we're growing, but I feel like little instances like that are what our detractors are going to aim for. And I know it's going to be there, and I know it's unfair, but it always kind of like hurts my heart a little bit because I'm like, oh man, when people see it, because like to us in the community, it's funny. We're like, they're like, that dude walked up to Chris like he was the final boss. There was like the whole final boss shit. But I was just like, to us, it's like, it's hilarious. But I'm sure if you spoke to some random person who probably just caught it on ESPN, they're probably going to be like, hey man, what kind of shit was that? Like, some random guys just like, it happens though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't look at boxing any different. People have brawls in rings all the time. You know what I'm saying? You don't look at them any different. Yeah. I mean, good way to put it is like, how many times a year does a streaker come onto the football field or the soccer field? Like, and I'm a football fan, okay? Yeah. So, exactly. Like, it happens all the time, but football isn't. Dude, in Europe, in certain parts of Europe, black football players, bananas are thrown at them.
I know about Mario. Yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, and it happened to a fellow Brazilian player as well too recently, Dani Alves, like a little while ago. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and dude, there've been, because I'm from South America, so a lot of people don't know. There's games that are played in football, dude, that the entire stadium has to be shut down and fans can't actually attend because it gets so violent. And I feel like. And that's a global game. Football is a global game. And I feel like we're so unjustly viewed as like, and I mean, folks, you can go on Azusa's website, the city website, and I think the files are still up there where they're like, people are going to be peeing on the wall, people are going to be graffitiing. And we as a community, we're told like, no, we're like employed. People here have children.
Yeah.
One of the seats, I forgot his name. Like everyone was like calling him like the savior, like John something.
Yeah.
One of the Asians,
like the orange polo shirt guy.
Yeah. And everyone was loving him because he was like, no, he's like, I know people who are like lawyers. I have a friend like, and she's a gamer. That's what she does. And these people are like really cool, and they have families, and and like, why do you think that even with all of the information, all the facts that you presented, with everything that's going on with the community, why do you think that people like that still look at us the way that they look at us? Like, oh, you guys are troublemakers, you guys are this and that.
I feel like it's kind of a thing where there's something you don't want to deal with, so you dismiss it. Like, it doesn't matter that we have all the information that proves counter to that. Right. I just don't want to deal with it. Right. Like, same way with politics. We're like you don't want to hear what the other side has to say, even when they're right, you don't want to admit that they're right. Yeah, it's just something like, where you're being stubborn. That's really all it comes down to. Like, they don't want that business. They don't want an arcade in their city. They want other businesses that align with their personal interests, right, or with their personal vision of what the city should be. Yeah. So that's the hurdle. Like, I think in pretty much any situation where people view our community negatively, it's usually come from a place of either ignorance or a place of I don't want to say contempt, but can't find the right words.
Contempt might be an appropriate word given the things that were said about our community. Yeah. And the fact that you had people in there proving the contrary, you had people tweeting to them on the contrary, and not like cursing out or saying fuck you or, nothing like derogatory, just like telling them why they're wrong and explaining to them the community and being like, listen, like, we just want to come out there, we just want a place to have a good time and have fun. But what kind of like made me laugh was like, then they had something about like a bowling alley, and I'm like, I'm like, you have more of a chance of like having some crazy shit happen at a bowling alley than with the community. I'm like, because for the most part, we all know each other. Yeah. And everybody is going to be like, there's literally probably going to be like 6 degrees of separation, like legitly in the FGC community. We're going to like know somebody that knows somebody. So if two people are probably going to have a disagreement or a fight or something like that, somebody in there is going to be like, nah, dude, like, I know both you guys, like, fucking chill. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not going to get to that level. So it always like amuses me. But like, how did you feel like going through that personally? Because like you went down there, like, what was it like standing there and presenting that information in front of those people, man? Like, how did you feel? And like having to defend the community that you love so much before people who were just kind of like, no, you guys are just all thugs and crazy people.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily feel they all felt that way. Like, I know that we have the stigma as the other because we're gamers, and it's a generational and cultural thing. Right. But I think in the case of the city, it's just more so not who we are. It's just that we're not what they want. That's all it really comes down to. Even though we can prove that our business is beneficial for them, they don't want to deal with that. They want to keep things the way they are. Right. Sorry. I got controlled off of my thought. Like, what was your original question again?
No, it was just like, how did you feel like having to present a case for the community in front of a group of people who were basically like, you you guys are all thugs and miscreants and you're going to be pissing on the walls and all this kind of shit.
Well, that I had actually no problem with, just because being in advertising, like, you deal with a lot of situations where like someone doesn't want to do something, you need to convince them and sway them. Yeah. But in terms of reaching that audience and approaching them, my idea of using stats is just to give credence to what we were saying, give proof to what we were saying about like how we're a welcoming community, all that stuff.
Right.
Like you can't argue against numbers. Like
exactly.
That was my main focus is you can't argue against fact. You can't argue against statistics. So here are statistics to back up everything that you're saying. Because you heard the heartwarming stories about, oh, I met my wife at the arcade.
Right.
Or you hear the stories of like, oh, it just helped me get away from drugs or some shit like that.
Yeah, right, right.
All of those heartwarming stories, at the end of the day, lawyers are going to get involved. You're still going to have planning commissions involved. True. So you need numbers to back up what's going to happen. Because it's a city. It's not like some guy. Like the main reason the city's rejecting the arcade is because of money and because of cultural differences. Yeah. And money will trump cultural differences 9 times out of 10.
Ain't that the truth, man?
But we know arcades don't make any money.
Yeah.
So they don't want to admit a business that's not going to raise them much revenue, that has a culture that they're not familiar with, and what they know of is negative. So all I can do is provide them info on here's the type of revenue that these people would bring to your community, and here's the background of these people, and here's the proof.
Right.
That's all I was focused on.
Right on. Yeah, man. And you guys, like, I commend you. Like, you guys did a great job. You, Sherry, like, it was just excellent. And hopefully, you know, just recently, one of the recent blog posts was everything was looking kind of good, looking like they're heading to that general direction. So, knock wood, everything works out. Now, for, you know, the closing discussion, I want to focus on your opinion on Street Fighter V. The reason why I want to focus on this because as you know, there was like a lot of mixed feelings about the game initially. People, much like 4, people were like, oh, you know, we don't know if it's going to be good, what it's like. It's here. Many people had like adverse reactions to when they saw the game and how they saw the mechanics of the game. So tell me, how did you feel when you first saw the game and both visually and then your first interactions with the game? And after these past 6-7 months or whatever, like, what are your thoughts on the game now?
Okay. So I first saw the game at Capcom Cup 2 years ago when they did that little reveal. My first thought was the graphics look stupid. They do not look different enough. When they eventually came with the current graphical model they're using, I still don't like the art style. I don't think the characters look different enough from Street Fighter 4. And even to this day, just from the art direction, not a fan of it. The hair looks stupid. Everybody's hands and feet are humongous. Yeah. Body proportions in general just all way off. Like some of the character designs are like, actually no, never mind.
But Ken always had like really giant ass feet though. Like his character design was always weird. Him and Ryu.
Yeah, all of the characters, like if they don't wear shoes, their feet are still the size of shoes.
Yeah,
that's the way it's drawn. Yeah, and the hands are drawn bigger because they can make the hitbox bigger. That's why it's done. Like there's a reason for it, but it looks bad. There's a good way to hide it, and they don't do it. They don't hide it well.
Right.
Just in general, the art direction and graphics of Street Fighter V, I'm not a fan of. Not a fan of how damn near every single woman's half naked, except for Karen and Chun-Li.
Yes.
Just a lot of unnecessary like male gazy type stuff. But looking past that, the game itself, I think it's fine. Like I like the game more than Street Fighter 4 personally, but I think
why is that?
I like the feel of the game. I like the way normals feel. They feel better to me. I like the pace of the game. Well, not the pace, but I like that FADC's gone more than anything. FADC uppercut was the most annoying thing in the world to me.
Tell people what FADC is for those who may not be familiar.
In Street Fighter 4, there's a thing called Focus Attack and Focus Attack Dash Cancel. Focus Attack is just an unblockable move. It's kind of like the thing from Rage of the Dragons. The Focus Attack Dash Cancel means you press a button, like you do a move, like throw a Shoryuken, throw like a hard punch, and you press the the focus attack buttons, and all of a sudden you cancel out of that move and you do something else right after it.
Yep.
For Street Fighter 4, what this meant is if you throw a Shoryuken and press the focus attack button at the right time, you can be safe. So you can do a move that's dangerous and recover from it and not have to worry about getting the fallout from doing that move.
Yeah, exactly.
That annoyed the shit out of so many old school Street Fighter players because in a way it took away some strategy. It took away the risk of doing certain things. Like it made something that's already invincible safe, which doesn't feel fair. And it made combos longer. It did a bunch of other stuff that some people didn't like. That was me personally. I don't like that. Some people love that. People who grew up playing that game love it. I didn't grow up playing that game. I grew up playing Alpha 2 and Super Turbo Lock.
Yeah,
so
ST, yeah.
Street Fighter 5, it does harken back more to that, more to the older games. But I guess the one thing that I don't think a lot of the newer players realize is that it's okay not to like a certain game.
Right.
Many people do not like Third Strike because of parries.
Yes.
Like, it's okay not to like a Street Fighter game. Like, you don't have to automatically like this. And people feel like they're being told they have to like this game because it's new. You don't have to like it. It's okay not to like Street Fighter 5. It's okay to like older games better. You just have to accept that games are different.
Yeah, this is the evolution. Like, we're just going through different iterations of the game. Yeah.
Now, the other factor that they don't really appreciate yet, which is surprising to me, is that this game is going to change tremendously. The game that is played right now is not going to last. Look at Marvel 3. Look who was used at the beginning of Marvel 3.
Exactly.
And look who was used at the beginning of Ultimate. Like, it's going to evolve. Like, when friggin' Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out, no one was using friggin' Doom.
No
one was using these characters. Only characters people were using was friggin' Cable.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, like, but yeah, I mean, then, but you still kind of like had like the team of like people who would like throw the Sentinels, but like you had very specific teams. Like, I definitely get what you're saying. Like, you definitely had teams and setups that people didn't relatively strafe too far from that. But in this game, like, people in a new iteration of the game, people are playing with damn near everybody, man. Like, everybody's being played with, so there's definitely that.
Yeah, and I don't think people appreciate the character variety of this game still. Like, no two characters play the same. The two closest characters are Ryu and Ken, and that's about it.
Yep.
There's a growth factor in this game that people are being impatient about. And I know Capcom's messaging around this game has been terrible, and their whole strategy around Pro Tour was ill-advised, but I understand why they had to do it. Like, Pro Tour, that is meant to support the game and bring business for future revenue.
Right.
It's not meant... It's a service to the community, but it's meant to move the community forward.
Right.
It's not handled the best way, but these things never are. Like, there's never been anything like this if you think about it. Like, you look at all of the other major competitive games, Call of Duty, League of Legends, StarCraft, none of them have a format like the Capcom Pro Tour. No one's ever been ambitious enough to try something like that. No esports organization, no MLG, no ESL has ever done something so large on this scale. So even though it's messing up, it's still a good thing that they're trying this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I always think that I give props, for trying. Like, especially if you're gonna try something new, something experimental. I think it's always cool to try to change things up a little bit. In terms of the game, I definitely agree with you. I feel like, because again, we were just talking about this at Wednesday Night Fights. People they forget that when 4 came out, they hated it, but by the time Super and Ultra was out, they loved the game. And they didn't realize, like, that's the game that you said 2 years ago that you hated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. 2 years later, you love this game. It's iteration. Like, give it time. The game is going to grow. The game is going to change. This thing's going to happen. Yes, we can all agree, like you said, Capcom's messaging around the game has not been the greatest. No. But from what we know and what we can surmise based on the history of these games, it's going to evolve, and it's probably going to evolve for the better. Yeah. Not for everybody, because, that's just how it works. But where do you see it going? Like, what characters do you see coming in? What changes in terms of like frames and hitboxes and things like that do you think they're going to make in their first like major shift?
So there are going to be more new characters. Not a ton. There are probably going to be more characters from Street Fighter 4. Probably not many from Street Fighter 2. T-Hawk and DJ and Honda, they're never coming back.
You were just saying that. And tell the people now what you told me when you said that.
Oh, just that they're not popular enough. Like, flat out. Honda, even though...
People are screaming right now at you. They're like, what? What are you talking about?
I mean,
Honda?
The fact that Balrog made it into this game was a minor miracle. Balrog and Vega making it into this game was a minor miracle.
Wait, Balrog and Vega?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Look at the Street Fighter games post 2. Balrog and Vega didn't make it into Street Fighter Alpha until Street Fighter Alpha 3.
True.
Neither one of them made it to Third Strike.
True.
And the only reason why they're at the beginning of Street Fighter 4 is because they had the original 8. Or the original 12 in Street Fighter 4. Because they did original 12 plus 4. Then they added super characters. Then slowly moved on.
Yeah. Okay. I give you that. I see that setup.
But those characters aren't popular enough. And their playstyles don't necessarily fit the game. They're too similar to other people. Honda could come into the game, but I don't see how they would have to change him up completely to make him work.
And Mike Ross wouldn't be too happy with that if they changed him up too much. Probably.
He might be.
Depending on what they do. Yeah, true.
He may like, well, we know. DJ, no chance in hell because it's too similar to... They already got two Guiles in there, so...
Yeah, true.
They'll probably bring back Abel, but it'll be different. Other C. Viper will probably be back.
You said that. Why Abel?
Because he's core to the story, and he's your baby after Street Fighter 4. In Street Fighter 4, Abel is the most popular new character in terms of character use. Like, Abel is the one who was played at the beginning of Vanilla, and it's played to the end. He did drop off, but he was still played.
Right.
No one played El Fuerte at the beginning. He slowly had like one or two people use him, but he was never that popular.
Yeah, big up to the homie Seth. He played Fuerte.
See, Viper had a peak of popularity. She got really big in AE and Super, but after that fell off. Who are the other new characters? There's Abel, Rose. Sorry, no. Who's the fourth new character when Street Fighter 4 came out? There was El Fuerte, Abel, C. Viper, and someone else.
Oh God, they're screaming it right now. Why am I trying to remember? Because I'm thinking Rose. I'm thinking what's her face? With the whip, with the horse whip.
It's not Poison.
Poison. Oh man, who was it?
I can't think of who it is because I keep on thinking of later characters like Juri and Hakan. Hakan's never going to come back. I didn't particularly like that character at all. I didn't really see the point of that character. But I like the ambition, but
yeah. So I mean, but Abel though, like I definitely see it. So I mean, obviously Urian, is going to be in it. I had the opportunity to play a couple matches with my homie, Wrathmatics Sal, and Urian is that character. There's going to be a lot of scumbag setups with that Aegis reflector, and that character. He's gonna be annoying a lot of people. He's fun, I understand, but I heard someone say Gil.
No.
Do you think just like background, maybe if that, like, but no actual?
Nah.
But didn't he have a certain level of popularity too, as well?
Unless they make it where Street Fighter 5 has another story mode, then Gil will be there. But I don't see them bringing him back as a playable character.
Okay,
not when Urian's already there.
That's fair. Now, throughout that talk just now, you mentioned something that we were talking about offline a couple days ago. Again, this is all Wednesday Night Fights. Talk about a lot of shit there, folks. That's why you got to come out to locals. Jury.
Yeah.
We're discussing the fact that a lot of people are giving their opinion on Jury, talking about how horrible she is. And a lot of these people who are saying these things aren't necessarily qualified to make those assessments. No. Number one, and number two, we also all agreed that it's probably a little bit too early to make any kind of substantial assessment on her character. But the one thing I said, which you agreed with me on, and I would like for you to unpack a little bit more, is the fact that I felt like people who are saying things about particular characters in this game, number one, they're just children and they can't play, or they just suck. Just like they just really suck and they don't want to take the time to actually learn the characters. And you said something to me, you were like, I really don't feel like there's any necessarily bad characters in the game, to which I agreed with. I think, like, because I kind of tested out all the characters and they were all fun. Like, the most fun I had when I played Karen. What I noticed with Karen, much like I noticed with Mika, is that she's not scrub friendly. And you actually have to know your buttons. You really have to have a plan of action when playing with these particular characters. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like there's no bad characters because we haven't had the game for a long enough time to really understand how each and every character works.
Right.
Hasn't been like that expert show up for every single character at every single tournament yet. Like, there's still like set few that people keep using. Jury and characters like that, like people, like remember when Alex came out?
Oh yeah,
Alex is ass. Why would anybody use him?
Yeah.
Now you have people playing Alex placing top 8 regularly. It's just
LPN.
It's a learning curve thing.
Yeah.
Like same thing with Birdie. Birdie was like, oh, Birdie's overpowered. He's too godlike. Now not many people use him.
Yeah.
Like only Alucard and LPM and like really doing much of it.
Shout outs to the homie Outlaw Sean.
Sean too.
Yeah, Sean be rocking that Birdie, man.
Yeah. I think it's just not enough time.
Yeah.
Like people haven't really fully explored the game yet.
Right.
There are technical aspects of the game that people still haven't discovered. Like you talk to Combo Fiend, he's gonna say like, "Oh, I still don't know when one's doing this thing yet." Like he'll probably tell you that.
Exactly.
Like, there are things in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that are still being discovered. There are things in Super Turbo that are still being discovered.
That's true. But why? I mean, so we know that. We can say that clearly. Yeah. Why do you think the general wider audience that's playing this game don't understand that, or like they're not? Because I see you tweet it. I see Valle tweet it because I follow you on Twitter, like, and I see you talking about these things, like, like give it time. Like you guys aren't, we haven't really fully explored the potential for this iteration of the game yet, but everyone's complaining. Like, why do you think that is? But people like us in the community, the core, we can be like, nah, like a lot of these, there's still a lot of shit to figure out. Like even you play Laura, and you can probably say there's a lot of shit to figure out with Laura. Why do you think people don't understand that and then just are humble enough to try to like go in the lab and try to figure out shit and try to learn shit, and their first knee-jerk reaction is to be like, oh, this character sucks, or this is bad, or that's bad, instead of actually trying to do the work to fully understand the character?
Like, really, strangely enough, part of it is YouTube. Like, people get all of the information on, like, before, back in the day, like, you get the game, you get the move list.
Right.
And that's it. Figure it out from there.
Right.
There was no training mode. If there's a training mode, all it is just a dummy.
Yeah.
Full meter.
Yep.
But nowadays, you have YouTube. You have people, they won the games out. Here's a combo video. Here's how to do or reuse 10-hit combo, or like 80% combo or something like that.
Right.
People see that, and they see from sources that they trust because they know those people are good at finding tech.
Right.
And they think that's the limit. Like,
right.
I'm not good enough to figure it out because I'm not that skilled yet.
Yeah. And
if Death can't find it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think people limit themselves because one, in the back of their mind, they know they suck. Like, like when people are not good at a game, they know they're not good, no matter how much shit they talk about. But they're not willing to put forth the effort to learn because they don't feel like the net gain is going to be worth it.
That's what always kind of like bugs me out. And it's like, why talk shit if you're not interested in putting in the work to do it? Is it? Do you think it's just kind of like a self-serving thing? They just want to make themselves feel better.
It's deflecting for their own inadequacies.
Okay, like, because
like, most shit talk is just either I'm making fun of you because I know you and I'm trying to like break your balls, like just be funny, or it's like I can't do something, so I'm gonna complain in a way that is deflecting from my own, like just saying like you suck. It's just trying to deflect. Yeah. Like divert attention from yourself.
Like, okay, so now to that same like YouTube thing, saw a person on YouTube playing the game. They said this. I laughed. Coming up on Monday, actually, I talk about this. Well, as this is recorded, this is already going to be out. So time travel people. Ooh. But the next episode that's going to be coming out, Raph Maddox is going to be on and ask him that question. I saw one of these people, these YouTube people, talking about the fact that they believe that there's no such thing as reads in the game. I love how you. Okay, so you're laughing, so I can probably almost guess what you're gonna say. But I asked Vicious. Vicious basically kind of chuckled, especially when I said who it was. I'm trying to remember the person's name. Oh my gosh!
It doesn't matter who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that person is basically like, oh, there's no reads. So I ask. And to me, when I heard it, it was like one of the stupidest things. And like, I literally stopped watching this person's video just for even laughter. Because obviously there's no tech. It's just like for laughter. Because in that moment, I realized that this person really didn't know what they were talking about. Like, they really didn't know the game. and they were saying that, and you kind of always got it that they didn't know what they were talking about. But I felt that particular statement I was just like, listen, I'm a scrub, and even I know there's no reads in this game. Like, what the fuck you mean there's no reads? Are you insane? Like, so talk about that. Talk about people making those kind of statements. Like, there's no such thing as a read, and explain. It's like a double part. So explain what reads are to people who may not necessarily know, and explain and please unpack your thoughts on the fact that someone can actually say this when that is demonstrably false.
Yeah. So read, pretty straightforward. It's just you understand what your opponent's going to do before they do. It's simple chess where basically you've noticed a pattern in behavior from this person, and based on your analysis of their previous actions, this is the thing they're most likely to do moving forward. Saying that that's not in the game is stupid because you're saying the human element doesn't exist in this video game, which is literally impossible in a one-on-one game.
Right.
It's one thing to say, like, you can't read the computer because it's a computer.
Right, of course.
But a human has tendencies. They have habits. They have things they're going to frequently do.
Yep.
Humans are creatures of habit.
Yep.
Like, the very, very best player in the world is always going to have some form of a bad habit.
Yeah.
It may be minimal, but it exists.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have something that you can rely on that someone's going to favor. Saying that a read doesn't exist, saying that you can't understand or predict what someone's going to do is just foolish because you're discounting the fact that they have options.
Right.
Like, no matter what you do in a fighting game, you're always going to have an option. If you're saying reads don't exist, then you're saying round one start means that you can do the same move every single time and punish your opponent. And that's literally impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a random number of things that someone can do. Mm-hmm. And reads is how you can tell what that person's going to do. It's how you're able to lock someone down.
Right.
It's the reason why you can do sure you can on wake up and actually have it hit.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
okay. Thank you.
I don't know how someone could think that.
And the thing is, like, for me, like, I was kind of like, you know, almost in like laughable, like clutching pearls thing. Like, how dare you say that? Like, what do you mean there's no reads? It's like, I've done reads before. I was just like, as a matter of fact, I have a pattern and a style of which I play Mika now that I can make someone do something, which is also another version of reading someone, so I can punish them for it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is demonstrable in the game. Yeah. Like, I've done it. Like,
reading your opponent to me is like half the fun of playing.
Yeah, it's a demonstrable thing. Like, I've played people where as soon as I rush them down with Mika, they get flustered.
Yeah,
and like earlier today when I was practicing, like, I kept shimmying and kept like fierce sliding this Ryu player, and I was laughing because I was just like, I know every time you wake up you're gonna push a button, because he did it like a couple of times, and I was like, you know what, he will wake up and do crouching medium, and I was just like, why are you hitting buttons like that on wake up if you see me moving? So I was like, oh, let me try something, and I kept doing this slide, and that is a read. Like, that is what a read is. Like, okay, I see a pattern, I see you doing something, so I'm going to trick you to keep doing that so I can punish it and gain the upper hand. Like, I don't understand how something that can be demonstrably proven, that is demonstrably proven every time you see people play the game, then you can be like, oh, there's no reads. Like, reading in this game is bullshit. Like, no, it's not. Like, dude, you hear announcers, commentators, you hear James Chen read players all the time. They're like, oh, this setup is coming right now. They're gonna, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, and then usually when that doesn't happen, they're like, oh, I'm surprised he didn't do that. I wondered why he didn't do that. And when they talk to them later, they're like, hey man, usually when you do this, you do that. Why didn't you do that? And they're like, oh, generally it's probably something like, I know that they probably watched video on me, and they probably, that character's pretty good, or that person's pretty good on punishing that particular setup. Yeah. So I decided to change it up and not do that. Yeah. That's also a read, because that person read that they can't do a particular move set because that opponent is gonna read it and it's gonna get punished. So like, and like, this is what I always try to tell people, like, stay away from people like that who are so toxic to the point where you cannot, the only reason why you can't become good at the game is because their toxicity is getting into you, and you're talking yourself out of the game before you get into the game. And I think that's a very serious problem we're going through right now. And I feel like what I enjoy is that there's people like you out there, there's people like YA who talk to people. So when people say shit like that, they have someone, even on Twitter, they can be like, yo, Cap, somebody said this, and you can be like, well, no, that's stupid. Like, and it's demonstrably stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the person did not have ill intent when they said that.
Like, yeah, I don't think they had ill intent.
But I think it probably just shows either naivete or lack of experience.
Yeah, I think it's lack of experience in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, because the one thing that I know a lot of creators go through is like they're in the lab.
Yeah.
They're not in the forest. They're not in the open. Like, you're testing it in a closed environment. So you know you can do this thing, but you don't know how effective it is.
Right.
And learning how effective something is what makes it valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are plenty of combos you see in games where it's like, oh, this thing does 90 damage and it's like 24 hits that like you can do, but you will never see that in a real match.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it. Like,
and you're dealing with another human being, and it may not necessarily work out that way. Now, talking about combos and damage, you play a character right now in 5 that I started out with, and I absolutely loved her. Mm-hmm. Some people are kind of back and forth on her. Yeah. I still think she's a pretty good character. Mm-hmm. I think, one of her drawbacks, I believe, is that even though I switched from like grapplers because I'm trying to stay away from Shotos because, you know, old school relying on that fireball and DP is not necessarily always a good thing. I feel like sometimes she can have a momentum problem. And what I mean by that is like, and you can yay or nay, Laura is so heavily dependent on momentum sometimes that if you kill it, it can really fuck up the match for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like when it comes to that, like momentum shift, Mika has better tools in terms of dealing with that and kind of like getting things back up. But overall, what's your opinion on Laura as she stands right now, being someone who's like playing her as his main?
She is solid mid-tier. She's not the worst character, and she's far from the best. Mm-hmm. She's a character in the right hands. You can do a ton of damage. You can win a lot of matchups. But in the hands of someone who's not as skilled,
right, you're
going to lose a lot. Not necessarily because of the character itself, but just because of how you have to play in order to use that character.
Yep.
Like Laura, her normals are not great. Having a 3-frame jab is amazing, but all of her punch buttons fall very short.
Yes.
Like, her stand jab's fine, but her stand medium is terrible for anything other than anti-air.
It's ass.
Or counter poking.
Yeah, counter poking, yeah.
Her stand fierce is good as a crush counter, but at startup it's terrible.
Yes.
Yeah. Her stand heavy kick.
So wait, her standing medium is the dash and elbow, right? If I can remember straight.
Her stand medium punch is like a rising elbow. She's standing.
Oh, right.
She raises her elbow up.
Okay.
Like, it's good for some anti-airs. Not all anti-airs because it's medium. But it's just okay. Stand medium kick is terrible. Like, the only thing it's good for is on certain characters that it hits crouchers. But most characters it doesn't do crap.
Right.
Her stand fierce kick is really, really a gamble. If you whiff on that move, you will die. If you get blocked, you're fine. But if you press, like, say, I have an opponent, I knocked him down. I want to use stand medium kick to set up a V trigger situation.
Right.
If they jump, it's not going to hit them. And I'm going to still be punishable after they land because she's still in that much recovery frames.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Damn.
But her specials are fine. They're safe enough.
Blanca thing.
Yeah. I think more than anything, she's just, her normals are not solid enough. And her ways of getting in are not great. Like her command dash, I stopped using it. I use just a normal dash to get in now.
Okay.
Unless I'm canceling it.
What would you like to see when because we all know changes are going to come, like we were talking about earlier. What changes would you like to see to that character?
The changes I'd want to make that character better are ones that can't happen because they're all based around her normals. Like, I lose in the counter poke game. Like, get Zangief. He just does crouch jab. That stuff's like 90% of her normals. Like it's stupid. But just a like this little dagger motion Zangief's doing on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, you have to time it really, really well in order to beat it. So it's just more, I think with that character, it's just people learning how to get around certain bad matchups is going to be the biggest thing for her. I don't feel like they need to change much to improve her. I feel like her damage is solid. Her combos are really easy to do and efficient. Her meter management is really good. And her V-triggers are really good. It's just, she's never going to be that top tier character just based on how her core design is.
So, are you going to stick it out with her, or do you see yourself in the near future kind of like changing things up a little bit? Unless
they present a new character who has something interesting, probably not. Like part of the reason I ended up with her is just because I work and I'm lazy. Like, I wanted to use Karen at first, but Karen's more technical than I expected, and I'm not. I have bad hands, so I'm not going to get that technical proficiency that I need to go far with that character.
Right.
Other characters like Nikali, he's good. I probably should be playing him. He fits my playstyle, but I don't have fun when I play as him.
Really? Why is that? Even though he fits your playstyle, why? What's going on there that's like that you guys aren't working out together?
I play very defensive, but I like playing as fast offensive characters.
Okay.
So in every fighting game, I use the wrong character pretty much for how I play.
Okay.
In Street Fighter 4, I use Guy. I should not be using Guy.
Yeah, no.
But I played him because he's fun. For 4, I'm using Laura because she has a command grab. I like having a command grab.
Right.
And she has fast normals. So she works out for me.
Yeah.
But Nikali, I'm not going to use because he's stubby. I was going to use Guile because I like having a flash kick, but Guile's not the character I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
So
what's so different about him as versus your initial thoughts of what he would have been?
I thought he was going to be ST Guile.
Okay.
He's not ST Guile.
Okay.
I didn't realize how big an impact making flash kick not invincible is going to be on that character.
Have any characters in any recent iteration of the game really been an ST embodiment of themselves?
Ryu kind of.
Really?
Yeah. Ryu harkens back to it more than before. Than his 5 version is more like ST than his 4 version.
Okay.
Like, it's not like super like it, but Chun.
Oh God.
All those normals.
She has everything.
Yeah.
She has all the tools, man.
Yeah, Chun is the best character in the game, but she's only the best in the best hands.
Yes.
Like, unless you know how to play Street Fighter really, really well, you're never going to move that character.
Dude, I saw, like, when I was practicing, and I got a matchup, and there was a Chun, and literally I sucked my teeth. I was like, because, like, I just knew, I was just like, man. But when I got in, like, I realized the person didn't know how to use them, so I was just like, oh, okay. I was just like, woo, you don't know what you're doing, so this is great. I mean, it's sad that I'm not going to learn anything about the matchup, but I'm like, this is great, because Chun is horrible, dude. Yeah. Dude, put it like this. I was jumping in on a Chun.
Oh.
Exactly.
That shouldn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like, when I did it, I was just like, I was testing, because I was just like, and when I did it just to test, because I was just like, I'm going to eat the damage, but I want to see what they do.
Oh, yeah.
And when he didn't counter, I was like, eat an anti-air? I was like, oh, you don't know how to use this character.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, because any matchup, you're going to test your opponent. Like, usually when I play as Laura, the first thing I'll do is her unsafe dash elbow, the one that leads into a grab. I'll just do it at the beginning of the match just to see, are they going to press a button when the match starts? And 2, are they going to know how to punish this?
Yeah. Okay, man. All right. You know what? There's a question I have to ask you before we get out of here, man. It's very important. How did you get the name Cap? Because I heard it was because of Kim Kapwan from Thing
that's
Days.
Exactly it. During the Street Fighter drought in college, I started downloading like ROM hacks. So I can afford video games because college student.
I was just gonna say, I was like, shit. Like all we had was like Heineken and like Maruchan bowls and
So I started downloading all of the old school consoles. Like, I never owned a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, so I wanted to play those games. So downloaded Neo Geo, downloaded all the Street Fighter and Capcom games from the arcade, all of that stuff. So basically all of the video games I wanted to play that I could never afford or were hard to come by. Downloaded that on my computer. But before that, on Dreamcast, CVS1 came out.
Oh, dude.
And for some reason, Kim just spoke to me. So I played that character. Then Girl Market Rules came out. I played his sons in that. Then I just started going through the back catalog, like, who are all these SNK characters in CVS? I want to learn about this. So I just started playing that again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And Kim was a character who just felt good because he had a flash kick. Mm-hmm. He had an overhead. And at the time, he had the slide move where you did a low into an overhead.
Yep.
Which is awesome. Yeah. So that character just spoke to me. And I had an old gaming handle, or not, I had an old handle, but I needed a new one. Mm-hmm. I saw that Kapwan was commonly misspelled with a just Kapwan instead of the Kaphwn. Mm-hmm. And I saw that no one really had that username, so I just took that as the name.
Dude, you want to know what's so interesting? I actually used to use that handle, and I had an old email address, and it was Kim Kapwan. Like, because it's CVS, and that was my dude too, man. Yeah. Kapwan was my guy, dude. Like, I would literally not touch any buttons just to watch him throw those boards, because I was like the sick. I was just like, yo, this dude is godlike, yo. And like, to me, it's just like I'm gonna just like nerd out on Kapwan, Kim Kapwan for a second here. I love his he had like this like this critical art that was like stupid, where he just stomped and it took like damn near like half your life.
Yeah.
I was just like, yo, this character is so stupid, man. Yeah. And like, yo, Kim, people, I think like he's one of the most underrated characters. And like, when we talk about like, in terms of like game echelons, like when we go back and we're like, oh, CVS 2, this game, that game. Like, cause I played him and I was like pretty decent with him. Mm-hmm. Kim Kapwan could bust ass, dude. Like, so
your SNK heads will tell you he has never been bad in a single fighting game. Every single Fate of Fury, he's been a good character. Every single KOF, he's been a good character. And I'm lucky I chose that name because no one had any rights to that name on any websites. Like, there's only one other like Kapwan I know of is some Russian rapper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but on social media, I'm the first Kapwan on every single thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I chose a good handle. I'm glad it's not stupid. I'm glad it's easy to pronounce. I'm glad I can spell it. I'm glad I can put that and people actually think it's my real name. Yeah.
That's dope, man. So I know I keep saying like final things, but there's so much to talk about. But I promise I'm going to try to make sure this is the last thing that we touch on before we get out of here. Coming up in next month, SCR. Mm-hmm. What are your expectations? Like, what are you going to be doing out there? What are your thoughts on it? What do you think is going to go down, man? How do you feel about it? Especially given the venue.
Well, one venue, it's not as bad a situation as people realize.
Okay.
Like, they do not realize that the setup that we have at Wednesday night fights on the regular is not our choice. That setup is not the way why wants it set up. It's the way that Esports Arena has their venue set up for modular events.
Oh, see, now that is helpful information.
Yeah. That's why you have computers in the middle of the thing. Yeah. That's why, like, some weeks all of a sudden, like, all of the seats are, like, in one row, and the next week it's because of Esports Arena. They have to cater to multiple events. Right. So that's to prove their own efficiency.
Right.
That entire upstairs area is never used.
I was just literally saying that at Wednesday Night Fights. I'm like, yo, there's so much space up here, man.
Yeah. And there's a third floor to Esports Arena that's an office that is never used. So, they're doing like an entire reconstruction on that third floor. So,
okay, you know what? Yeah, because I saw someone like going up there with stuff in the elevator the other day. Okay,
but basically that space has not been fully utilized.
Okay.
The other thing is FCR is not as big a tournament as people think it is.
Really?
People tend to think of it like maybe not a CEO level type tournament, but like they think of it as big ones like what's the one in Chicago? I keep wanting to say UFGT, but it's not that.
No, Combo Breaker?
Combo Breaker.
Yeah.
Or Final Round or something like that. It's nowhere near that level. It's become a regional tournament again. It's like NCR, where it's mostly locals from West Coast.
Yeah.
A handful of international people, and like the 3 people from the East Coast who actually come to the West.
Okay.
Other than that, it's all locals. Like Street Fighter, I don't think it's ever broken more than like 400, 500 people. And Wednesday Night Fights already has like 100-something people every single week.
Yeah.
And that's in a 4-hour time span that they're running that. So,
whoa.
And that's going to be the biggest thing. Street Fighter's going to be bigger. Smash has never been that big because they have their own scene. And usually it's the people who are like crossover players who show up.
Right.
The other fighting games have smaller crowds. And they'll be on different days. Like Tekken will be just one straight day and that's it. Like,
okay.
There's there's crossover, but it's
very tiny. Like the windows are
smaller than people realize.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. So you're excited. I mean, I'm excited just because there's gonna be shit to eat around there in Santa Ana. So
Ontario SCR last year, that was the worst venue ever.
Yeah, that shit was horrible.
I'm so glad we're not there ever again. The staff there were terrible, except for the security people. The security people were dope.
The security people were dope, and I resented the fact that people were like looking at us like we were crazy. Yeah. Like I really don't like that. Like I really didn't like. It really bothered me that people were there and they were looking at us like we were crazy because like we were walking through with like the fight sticks and we had our book bags and like obviously we got the tags and they were like, what are you guys doing here? Mm-hmm. And like everybody had this thing where like, oh, there's like a video game. Everyone did the same thing. Video games. Video games. And we're like, yeah, video games. Like, what the fuck is the problem? It's like, you're fucking going to like a knitting convention.
Yes.
Yeah, right? You remember the fucking knitting convention? I was like, there's a fucking knitting convention. I was like, and you're looking at us for going to play video games. So shit like that like really bothered me. So I do enjoy the fact that it's going to be more local. I was worried about the space and things like that, but I've been hearing some things. You just kind of like reassured me a little bit. So I'm hoping for it, and you kind of put things into perspective in terms of the thoughts, because I had that thing of like, man, this is going to be sorry for that bump, folks. I just hit the microphone. Sorry. Haha. But I felt like this is going to be like massive and it's going to be so packed, but I love, your honesty of like, no, it's, we're going to have some people, but it's not going to be as crazy as people think.
Yeah, my biggest concern for SCR are two things: casual situation,
okay,
and vendors.
I was thinking vendors as well. I was like, vendors, wow, how's that going to work out?
Well, for one, vendors have been having a rough time in the past year. Mm-hmm. Like I think you guys probably noticed the Broken Tier is not as at many events as it used to be. Mm-hmm. Mad Cats, now that they've lost a ton of money, they're not at events the same way they used to. And then just some of the tournaments that have happened, especially in SoCal over the past year or two, like vendors just haven't been making back their money because it's all the same people and they're not buying new shit. Like I have my arcade stick. I don't need to buy another arcade stick.
Yeah. Like, and I got the t-shirts and the buttons. Like, yada.
You only need so many of those. So part of the reason they are having it at Esports Arena, not only in the partnership, is that because of Esports Arena's growing reputation, you have more outsiders showing up. You have more people from Blizzard showing up. You have people from Naughty Dog and from other gaming companies showing up.
True.
So the hope is that because of this venue, because it's familiar to crossover events, that'll bring in a new audience, a bigger viewing audience at the event itself. Casual situation, that one's going to be rough because it's a lot of games to run, and there's not much. Because of the size of the venue, there's not going to be the space for like BYLC or anything like that. Yeah, I know Vi is doing the best he can to accommodate, but there's going to be a limit, like flat out.
Yeah, and I feel like as a community, in part, that there comes times that we kind of have to like bite the bullet and give a little bit more understanding. And I feel like in terms of where we are in flux right now, as it relates to SCR and its location, I'm willing to bite the bullet for something better next year and see what happens, and hopefully we can get in like another like larger venue or whatever. So I'm not too worried about it. But on that note, dude, it's been an awesome conversation, man. It's been awesome talking to you. Great having you on the show. Before we get out of here, give everyone your social media stuff, man. Let them know where they can reach you on the interwebs.
Okay, so my social media doesn't really matter, but I'm Kapwan on Twitter. I'm Kapwan13 on Instagram. I'm Kapwan or Kapwan13 on pretty much every damn service. On Twitch, I'm on Kapwan, but my roommate, she streams more than anything else now because I don't really need to cater or grow myself as a personality because I'm a behind-the-scenes guy. Yeah. But she wants to be a host. Like, she's getting training from Tasty Steve to be a commentator and shit like that. Yeah. Sarah the Rebel, follow her channel. Yeah. Same thing on Twitch and YouTube and all that stuff. Yeah. Follow her stuff. I'll be on that. I'm pretty much the behind the scenes guy for her stuff now.
Yeah, and that's the homie. Shout out to Sarah we met at Evo, man. Like we're like laughing up a storm. Like she was over there like hanging out talking to Paul, and I walk up and she's just like, and he's like, yes, this is the guy I wanted you to meet. This is Milton. And like we start laughing, and she's like, oh, I heard you like Caribbean too. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, really? I don't ever meet other Caribbean people. Yeah. And like I just started talking shit to her, and it was just like, it was just like, what's up? It was just like, so she's She's a really, really cool, really awesome person. She knows her shit. So you guys definitely need to check her out. And I will be sure to make sure that I put her information in the show notes as well. And as always, folks, I'm your humble host, Milton. You can reach me at Slovenly Gamer everywhere. Slovenly Gamer on Instagram, Slovenly Gamer on Twitter, Slovenly Gamer on Facebook. And I'm trying to form up things. So make sure you always go over, especially if you're a Droid person, go over to slovenlygamer.libsyn.com. You can catch all the backlog of the shows. And remember, if you're listening on iTunes, remember to always please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it, folks. We out of here. Peace.